Yeah, just give me a second, Karen. You know, I'll put in the effort when you start putting in the effort. This was what you could come up with? This? I gotta get a better lutein. Did you at least manage to find something fluffy, inoffensive, and fun for me to talk about this week? Okay, yeah, that'll do.
At first glance, this movie is complete fluff. It was written and directed by Amy Heckerling, best known for Clueless, and stars Alicia Silverstone and Kristen Ritter as the titular Vamps, Goody and Stacy.
While a good chunk of the movie is dedicated to vampire shenanigans, I'll leave that to the more specialized critics, and just say that I want to talk about these characters as characters, because while this movie could very easily get stuck with the dreaded moniker of a chick flick, it defies a lot of the stereotypes associated therein.
For starters, the movie doesn't have an overarching plot exactly. It feels more like one of those Disney direct-to-video sequels that were made of 3 canned TV episodes mushed together, albeit much better integrated. And the glue that's holding it together is the friendship between the two main characters.
It's kind of absurd how well these two get along, and while it's alienating to a degree, it's also refreshing.
When they fight, there is substance to their arguments, and rather than be upset with each other and just stay that way, they generally try to immediately work through their problems, sometimes to the point where it's unrealistic how well adjusted they are. But then again, neither of them is as modern and hip and young as the costumes would have you believe.
This was the role Alicia Silverstone was born to play.
If Cher Horowitz lived in affectionate exaggeration, Goody is well-meaning observation. She's originally from the 1800s, so she's 120 years old in the body of a 20-something...
30-something? Man, I want her skincare regime.
Anyway, she is unequivocally the mom friend in the more traditional sense, full of nerdy tidbits and fussing over Stacy, who's more of a 90s party girl, but has her moments too, since she's arguably more in touch with the times than Goody.
There are 3 arcs to the movie, but the way that they're spaced out and the pacing make me think that this would have functioned better as a TV show than as a movie.
The first is Goody-centric and involves her reconnecting with an old boyfriend, Danny, played by Richard Lewis. She ends up outing herself to him as a vampire, but it doesn't stop them from rekindling their friendship, and she eventually gets another vampire to save Danny's wife who's dying of cancer before she makes the ultimate sacrifice.
Don't worry, we'll get to it.
The second is a bit more slice of life, just following the 2 girls around as they live their vampire non-lives, going out on dates, attending a Sanguines Anonymous meeting, and trying to stay hidden in a world that's constantly evolving and finding new ways to put people on display.
This part of the plot is also where we meet Malcolm McDowell as Vlad Tepes, the vegetarian vampire who curbs his need to impale things by knitting. Yep.
This is where their friendship really shines. Their vampire nature means that their problems are not normal per se, but their behavior is still relatable because it's normal to them. Though maybe we could do without quite so much narration in the beginning.
Oh, and Sigourney Weaver is in here too.
She plays the vampire who sired Goody and Stacy, Cicerus. She's self-absorbed, hedonistic, and unapologetic in how she lives her undead life to the fullest. And this creates a lot of problems for the other vampires who are trying to live a peaceful existence.
Which leads us nicely into the Stacy subplot, which has baby Dan Stevens in it, and he is so fluffy, I wanna die!
This is Joey, a classmate of Stacy's whom she starts dating, only to learn that he is part of the Van Helsing line, and his father, played by Wallace Shawn, is operating under the guise of a Homeland Security enforcer to hunt down vampires. At first, we see a lot of the traditional hiding the monster hijinks, but then, 2/3 of the way through the movie, Stacy gets pregnant.
Okay, hold on. I know what you're thinking. It's not as bad as that. It is not as bad as that. Just bear with me.
Vlad tells Goody that if the sire is killed, all fledglings revert to the ages they would be as humans. Goody, who has been keeping her real age a secret, passes this information along to Joey and Stacy, who come around to the idea of murder pretty quickly because Cicerus is a terrible person. Their battle goes down at Grant's tomb, and after Cicerus dies, the truth comes out and Goody and Stacy have one final night together in Times Square before Goody turns to ash.
Well, that's certainly one way to make a Right. I forgot we were on the internet. Subject change. It's not worth the comments.
Vamps fascinates me in part because it's trying so hard to capture what life is like, and that is not an easy thing to do
because life is a gradual series of revelations that occur over a period of time. It's not some carefully crafted story.
Why, yes, exactly, thank you.
It's a mess and we're all gonna die. If you saw a movie that was like real life, you'd be like, what the hell was that movie about?
Mr. Groban, are you—
It was really all over the place. Life doesn't make narrative sense.
Are you quite finished? Thank you. Moving on.
This is a movie about women growing up and moving on. Both Goody and Stacy have to make the choice to leave behind their eternal 20s and the freedom that it represents for the more mature paths of motherhood and death, respectively.
It's good, meaningful commentary on the frivolities of youth and the fact that there are more important things. Unlike,
So annoying! You have to keep learning to use new crap that doesn't actually do anything better than the old crap, which is incompatible with the new crap. Also, you can have blogs and watch fake teenagers and real housewives, and it's all happening too fast, and I'm tired.
Amy Heckerling is no stranger to social commentary on the shallow state of our world. It was part of what made Clueless work so well. But in Vamps, the critique feels a lot more aimless.
It's all kids today with your little screens and your Instabook and your Facegram, and back in my day, we didn't do that. We talked to people. We get it. Screens are killing social interaction. Are you gonna say anything deeper than that?
The thing that best supports Goody's complaints, in all honesty, is Joey. It's not hard to see why Stacy likes him. He's Dan Stevens, which means he's cute and affable and funny. But he's also woefully naive and immature, something that doesn't go away at any point in the narrative, which makes it hard to understand why Stacy would choose to stay with him. He's a guy for dating, not one for settling down with.
The last thing we see of him is one of those corny, yes dear moments that you see in sitcoms all the time after Stacy berates him for checking out another woman. Come on, Amy Heckerling, you are better than that.
And again, it's pretty clearly Goody's story. Stacy has a character arc of her own, but at the end of the day, this is about Goody letting go of her surrogate sister/daughter.
I guess Amy Heckerling likes that dynamic for Alicia Silverstone. Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
I should take a moment to talk about the male characters because they're certainly not traditional, even for a romantic comedy. Everyone is a little quirky, which is to be expected, but the male characters, with the exception of Van Helsing, who, again, is played by Wallace Shawn, of all people, are all non-threatening to the point of absurdity.
Let me remind you of what I said earlier. Malcolm McDowell, Alex DeLarge, is playing Vlad Tepes, Vlad the Impaler, the inspiration for Dracula, at least in name. And he is so far removed from the gore of his historical roots that he might as well be a toothless little kitten.
There's also the girl's gay best friend Renfield, still not sure whether that's actually his name or just a joke, and he is very uninteresting, either constantly trying to get them to party with him or just get them to make him a vampire too, and there's no real commentary or insight into him other than, actually being a vampire kind of sucks. And then there's Justin Kirk playing the Ukrainian vampire Stem, Vadim, who is, entitled.
I'm Vadim. This is Ivan.
I'll get my coat.
Oh, juicy.
She is asking for it.
This man was Emmy nominated for his performance as Prior Walter in HBO's production of Angels in America.
Any menace that comes from Vadim is nullified through comedy and Goody's basic prim and proper antics. And while it is empowering to a degree to see her protect people from his creepy behavior, it's still a problem because he's treated as comedic rather than dangerous.
Well then again, if he's so easily rendered powerless, he's not a very good creeper, is he?
For all that Heckerling misses in her attempts at commentary, there is one thing that she manages to do very well, and that's effectively flip the overprotective dad stereotype with Van Helsing. It's a trope that we've seen so often with a father and daughter, so when we see it with a son, it hits home just how ridiculous this trope actually is. Joey is a responsible, if a bit dense and horny, adult, and he can handle himself. And Stacy is so laughably harmless that Van Helsing's worries are clearly ridiculous. And after Joey finds out that Stacy is indeed a vampire, he tries to take measures to keep himself safe from the danger element, even if doing so does make him look even more idiotic.
You know you're in a bad spot of cringe humor when the huge Ackman bit from Night at the Museum 3 is looking like better comedy.
Richard Lewis, rather disappointingly, is playing the straight man in this, which means he doesn't get a lot of jokes, but he does get to do some pretty great reactions. And it's also nice to see a scenario where two exes are in the movie and it's not about them bickering until they get back together, but rather reconciling and helping each other in their lives as friends. He's understandably upset at Goody for vanishing on him all those years, but when she tells him the truth, he accepts it and they're able to coexist peacefully.
Vampires! Friendship is magic.
It's pretty clear Heckerling didn't know exactly what kind of story she wanted to tell with this, or what she wanted to say. Throughout the film, she's intercutting with footage from surrealist films, but her own text is not nearly as cerebral. There's no subtext to what she wants to say. Everything is painfully drilled into us on a surface level.
Maybe it's the fact that this came out at the tail end of Twilight-O-Mania, but I think it's good. Or at least I think it's good enough to be in my guilty pleasure list. It's just campy, fluffy fun.
And if nothing else, you can get sloshed and laugh at Batgirl and Jessica Jones having to team up with the Beast and Vizzini in order to take down evil Ripley.
Oh, bite me, Karen. It's not some groundbreaking work of cinema verite. It's a goofy comedy. I'm allowed to run out of things to say.
Because with some movies, it's okay for them to just be campy and goofy. There are clearly no bad intentions in how this movie was made, they were just throwing things on the wall to see what stuck. Gross out horror imagery, corny jokes, baby Dan Stevens sex hair, and pure, sparkling, healthy female friendships.
And quite frankly, we could use more movies in that last category, so, in honor of Women's History Month, get to it, ladies! And gentlemen too! No, really, I want you to try. Just one more thing.
Inclusion rider.
Let's do this.
Merci beaucoup for watching, everyone. If you like what I do, please be sure to like, leave comments, and share this video, and to subscribe to help my channel reach a wider audience, as well as following me on Facebook and Twitter. If you're feeling generous, and you aren't off the grid because you don't want Homeland Security finding out that you're a vampire, you can support me on Patreon to get early access to my videos, request feature episodes, and be considered for cameos. Encore merci, and I will see you next time when we will be talking about a gender-swapped remake of a classic 80s film. No, not that one. Au revoir!